have not been learned.
I think we're already on the verge of a big economic crisis. I think the situation that's happening in Asia with the spread of COVID-19 is going to precipitate an economic crisis. So that's certainly going to be blamed as the reason for the economic crisis. But a global economic crisis has been coming for 10 years. None of the problems that happened in 2008 were fixed. I think the average person really can understand that a lot of it was just swept under the rug and bailed out, and the average person isn't much better off than they were then. The future of finance worldwide will be with much more decentralization based on open protocols and open systems that can reach everyone, with a reduction in the need to authorize and vet participants, and instead build security mechanisms that do not depend on vetting, but depend in the kind of game theory that we see in proof of work and proof of stake systems and other consensus algorithms that might emerge. The future of finance is open, decentralized finance, and it will help bring the whole of humanity into an economic system that everyone can access. And I think that's going to happen. It may take several decades, however, to emerge that way. Not because of the technology, but because of the geopolitics surrounding it. The ability of governments to control money gives them enormous power, and they're going to fight tooth and nail to preserve that power, even at the expense of their own people.
Today, we have the US Federal Reserve taking emergency measures to bail out the markets by printing even more money. Again.
The crazy thing is, like, in 1971, when we formally abandoned the gold standard, the reality was every country realized that all of a sudden they had infinite power, and it lied in each of their central banks and the ability for those central banks to print fiat money. And so ever since then, we've just basically been printing ad nauseum, effectively. And what Japan has really shown over the last 20 years is, as long as I keep buying my own debt, everything's going to be okay, because, I'm paying myself back. And so I'm just round tripping money constantly. I can keep this whole thing afloat for a very long time. Now, America has a different problem in that it has always been the reserve currency. And there's a lot of foreign entities, governments, and otherwise that own American debt. So, the United States can go and play this game for a while, but eventually it comes home to roost, because you're going to have to start issuing paper at a higher and higher risk premium. The question is, how do you do it?
The writing is on the wall. Governments are running out of ammunition. Slashed interest rates and trillions of dollars in quantitative easing are slowly eroding the value of fiat currency. These measures risk plunging the economy into another recession instead of addressing the underlying problems. Bitcoin was created to fix this.
The way to think about this is, just like you said, it's gone from worth very little to worth a lot more. There's been many bull and bear cycles over that time period, really 4 of them that you could count. It's a volatile asset, but if you look at the underlying fundamentals, the strength of the computing network, etc., all of those things are hitting near all-time highs or all-time highs, so it's very encouraging. I think in terms of a store of value, it's still up over doubled this year, and so you're going to get this asset that can run 2, 3, 4x, and then it'll pull back a little bit, and then it'll run again. And when you have a store of value with artificial supply cap, you need increased demand for that price to continue to move upwards.
Why would you own Bitcoin if you could own the US dollar?
I ultimately believe that people are going to opt for something that is not manipulatable, is not seizable, is not censorable.
Not debasable.
Not debasable, etc. And so I think people are going to continue slow at first, but over time, more and more people will choose a currency that a government does not control.
You see, this invisible enemy is just the needle that pops the central bank bubble, the catalyst that provides an exit ramp in the event of the inevitable currency collapse. Fiat money is designed to inflate indefinitely. It's a ticking time bomb. Bitcoin, on the other hand, was designed with a fixed supply of 21 million. Most importantly, it is not governed by a central entity that can decide to increase its supply in times of trouble. Thus, we are on the verge of witnessing the largest fiat exit in history.
I think that this is the setup, meaning I think Bitcoin needed a moment like this for it to be relevant. We are driving slowly, but we are driving towards a top of a cliff. And then we're going to drive much, much faster down that cliff. And at the end of it is a huge brick wall. The way we avoid it is by pivoting to a resilient economy where we introduced inefficiency and cost or debasement. The path dependence for Bitcoin is, if it looks like path 2 is likely, it will really emerge as a flight to safety. And over the next 10 years, where this trajectory is going to take shape, and it is a 10-year trajectory, you'll have a lot of time to protect yourself and to hedge yourself. I've always thought of Bitcoin as a very binary investment, whether it goes from 80 to 8,000 to 6,000 to 3,000 to 13,000, it doesn't matter. This is either zero or it's millions, because what it will do is it will create a quasi-gold standard. It'll create an index, except instead of having to own gold, where gold is owned by central banks, it is an instrument that has value that's determined by and between its participants, and it's owned by everybody.
To free capital from the chains that banks and governments have wrapped them in is revolutionary in scope and monumental in size, like the internet, but bigger. Bitcoin is not just an alternative to money, it's a rejection of the current economic system. On our current trajectory, hyperinflation is inevitable. While governments are busy printing even more money, Bitcoin is about to see its incoming supply cut in half. One of the scarcest assets in the world is about to become even more scarce. This is the biggest opportunity Bitcoin has ever seen.
You're going to see the rate cuts, you're going to see the quantitative easing, and then you're going to see the Bitcoin halving. It's all going to happen around the same time. And I think that Bitcoin's going to become incredibly attractive to a lot of people here in the short term or very quickly.
While all the noise is going on in traditional markets, the decentralized digital currency will keep on doing exactly what it was created to do. Block after block, the strongest computing network in the world will continue to march on, trading 24/7. No circuit breakers, just a global, free market. This is the ultimate exit, one where we're able to build a new system of finance, economics, and government itself.
There's a real chance by 2030 we don't find a way to inflate our way out of this, and that the only way to break the back of deflation is essentially to create some quasi form of gold standard. But it'll be almost impossible to do that between governments and central banks. They'll never agree on an instrument and they'll never agree on an exchange, but then bottoms up, people could decide to do it. And the minute that that happens, individuals and people, then it's a done deal.
First, I have to give Bitcoin creators credit. At least they know enough not to trust fiat money that's controlled by our government.
Then why would people trust Bitcoin? It's not control. I mean, why trust something that's digital?
Well, I guess you can trust it because it's not controlled by anyone. I mean, had PayPal invented Bitcoin, we'd all be heralding it as the most important financial revolution since the internet. Since the credit card, perhaps.
How do you account for all of the unknowns?
Well, it is regulated.
What's the value of it? I mean, well, what's the value of one Bitcoin?
I mean, I think right now one Bitcoin goes for about $110, and I think it's skyrocketing precisely because of all these great aspects about it.
The whole Bitcoin market is about $1 billion. It's a novelty for the geek squad. I can assure you, if these became well promulgated, that the U.S. government would shut it down.
And just to give our viewers some perspective, there's about $4 trillion in currency trading every day, and as Michael said, it's about $1 billion worth of Bitcoin.
Is this going to get any traction in the markets then, Jeff?
Well, yeah, absolutely it is. I mean, it has quintupled in value over the last year. Just since the Cyprus thing came up, it's up over 20%. Over the last month or about a couple months, it's up over 40%. So it's actually getting some visibility out there again.
Your purchasing power can be wiped out in a nanosecond, and that's why it would never be widely accepted in this country.
I hear you say that, but that doesn't make it true. And I think that there are people who spend a lot of time on this that might know this topic maybe a bit more and who would believe in it.
Nothing lasts forever. Humanity will bounce back. We always do. With each passing crisis, we come out stronger than ever.
There's no need to panic. We don't have to hoard cans of spaghetti or go down into the basement. But we need to get going because time is not on our side. In fact, if there's one positive thing, it's that it can serve as an early warning, a wake-up call to get ready. If we start now, we can be ready for the next epidemic.
There's no way to measure just how bad the consequences of the current monetary policies will be. But if you think that at the end of all of this, somewhere, lies a digital immutable future, then you already know There is no exit plan for Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the exit plan.